Thank you for watching Hack the File. I'm Michael Lopez, and on today's episode, we're going to be reviewing a networking book written by one of my colleagues. Enjoy. All right, we're back. I have a lot of new books that I want to review, and but one in particular is a book written by one of my colleagues at the college that I teach at, um, and it's called Subnetting Master Crafting IP Networks by Joshua and Duersch. So, um, I've gone through this book a little bit, and I got to tell you, I really like it. It's not a huge book, but I think that what it has in it is essential for, I would say, hackers or anybody understanding what networks are, and a subnetting, of course, and IP addresses, and basically how the network is formed and how it's laid out. So, um, if you're a hacker, okay, and you're traversing a network and you're going through directories, or you're looking at network IPs and stuff like that. Um, it's I think you have to understand what. First of all, you have to understand networking, and then you have to, an IP addressing and stuff like that. And then you have to understand subnetting, right? Because you're going to find subnetworks within a network, and if you're thinking about hacking, right, as it is, or managing networks, it doesn't matter. But if you're traversing a network, um, I mean, you're going to want to hit those sub networks that are connected to those networks, right? And or vice versa, those networks that are connected to the sub networks, so you can compromise more things or whatnot, right? And so you have to have an understanding of it, okay? And I think this book does a great job. So if you're looking to start understanding, and so I think he only goes through IP4 in this one. He doesn't do IP6, but IP4 is the most popular, right? Because we're still using IP4 at least for the next 20 years, 30 years. I don't know. Um, but he goes through a lot of good stuff. So let's get this started and start looking through this book, okay? And like we always do something about. We always start with the publisher. I mean, not the publisher, the author, and we always go through that. So, subnetting master crafting IP networks. Learn how to subnet an IP version 4 rapidly and effectively for practical network administration by Joshua and Duersch. Okay, and he just barely came out with this book this year. Here are all the contents. We never do the contents. Okay, so we always start with about the author. About the author. Josh has been teaching computer networking and IT courses at a Cisco Networking Academy since 2007, when he left administration in the internet service providing industry. He has held a Cisco Certified Network Association (CCNA) since 2006. He renewed the certification with the new 2024 version of the exam, getting 95% and 96% in the networking fundamentals and IP connectivity sections, respectively. Moreover, he holds current CompTIA certifications in the following: A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, Mobility Plus, Linux Plus, and Server Plus. Now, I want to get this Linux Plus one eventually. He has been Microsoft certified since 2005 and is a Microsoft Certified Solutions Associate (MCSA) in Microsoft Server 2006. I don't know if you guys know, but getting certified in Microsoft and anything is hard. Okay. the last of such certifications prior to the shift to role-based certifications. Josh's formal education consists of a minor in computer networking technology and an adult education bachelor's of science degree in human resource training and development. Moreover, he obtained a Master of Science in Human Resource Development from Idaho State University, ISU, in 2017, and is currently pursuing a Doctor of Education in ISU's College of Education. And I'm sure this book helps him with this doctorate or his doctorates, because I think you either have to get published or you have to be published in some kind of journal. I don't know. Introduction. Okay, learning to subnet internet protocols addresses isn't easy. More than once, I've been asked to teach subnetting to students in a non-IT program over a week, which I always decline. Almost 2 decades teaching subnetting, the art of crafting custom IP networks to meet technical needs, has shown me that it isn't something that can be picked up easily. However, the goal in this book is to rapidly teach a fundamental understanding of why and how to use subnetting so that you can critically apply it professionally in technology work like IT and cybersecurity. So that being said, it is a pretty difficult subject. If you are not into cybersecurity and you're or IT or whatever, and you've never really heard about networking or IP addresses or anything, and you're just the average Joe, or just a regular, let's say you're in a different field, like you're saying, um, it's going to be hard to pick up for the first time. You have to have some kind of history and some kind of knowledge of it, I would say, to help you understand it easier. That being said, if we can go through this book, he breaks it down pretty good because there's some math in here, right? And there's math involved in it. And if you're good at math, then you might be able to pick it up. In fact, new cybersecurity recruits with lackluster knowledge and skills in networking concepts like subnetting remains one of the biggest concerns I hear from working professionals. To that end, this book is intentionally short and to the point. See, and I like that. I like when we could do one video and review a book in 30 minutes. Unnecessary, but we're gonna not review it thoroughly, but we're gonna get the gist of everything, right? And then you guys can go and buy it or whatever you want to do. Unnecessary information has been omitted wherever possible. And I like that too. Also, don't worry about all of the terms raised so far. We'll go over them more in detail as we progress. Most learners and students ask me why they need to know about subnetting for the industry certification exams. These questions are really probing for practical relevance. Most current IT and cybersecurity industry certifications have been heavily revised and are designed for daily application. This shares the goal of this book. You will learn fundamental material to get practical subnetting skills for both technical work and your industry exams like CompTIA's Network, Cisco. Okay, so he's done all this stuff, so he knows. Multiple adult education, i.e., androgyny degrees and decades in higher education have hammered in the essential principles for teaching adults. Adults are self-motivated, self-learning because it meets some kind of need. Use it to solve practical life problems and to know why they are learning. I have to assume these and do, or else you wouldn't have downloaded this book. Oh, yep. I've addressed practicality, but know that each of these concepts are fundamentals across technology professions and or further chapters in the text. So be sure to do the practice problems as you go until you're confident in the concept. Last of these learning principles, but essential, is the why. So this also has practice questions in the back. So this is like I said, he's an instructor over here at the college that I teach at in my city. So so you have so you have to think he knows how to teach, right? And he knows what he's teaching. So he's going to have it set up as a book to learn from. Okay, so you're gonna have some practice questions and everything. That's awesome. Subnetting without having the why is like accounting without understanding dollars or the value of goods. You'll need to understand the subnetting professionally, even if you're a cybersecurity analyst and not an IT network administrator. Why? For example, all of the traffic you look at to catch the bad guys in your network has addresses, IP addresses. See, that's what I just said. How can you be effective if you don't understand these addresses? Exactly. Or the difference between one network and another? Exactly. They all have to and form addresses. They all have to and form addresses like standard mail in the real world. Yep. In the internet business, understanding IP addresses was essential for my success in troubleshooting customer connections effectively and rapidly. This doesn't even speak to my work in administration. Just to build your motivation a bit more, some subnetting concepts always stay the same while others change. Debits and credit cards. So like I said, if you're what he's talking about is the why. You need to know why. You need to understand this, right? And like he said, you're he's looking at it from the defensive point of view or from all points of view to understand, right? But like from a hacker's point of view, he's already assuming that hackers already know how to read networking, right? So that's just a given. So if you're learning to be a pen tester or some kind of hacker, you absolutely have to understand networking. You can't just go in there and try to write scripts and be in all this stuff like that, and I mean, there's so many parts of cybersecurity and especially in hacking too. You can break hacking down. You can use a minor attack frame and break that down into pieces, right? Or reconnaissance and network traversing and all this stuff. But um, you have to. It all starts with you have to understand networking. Okay, a technology shift is happening in the industry. Moves from IP version 4, okay, to version 6. I've had a video that we've gone over IP version 4 and IP version 6, and what it is we're trying to do and why. The good news is that you only need to learn the basic principles of number conversions and creating new networks once. The base concepts still apply to the newer technologies, creating more networks with hexadecimal numbers instead of used in version 6. Hexadecimal numbers instead used in version 6. Yeah, man, I didn't even look at it like that's true. This is why you should know why we do subnetting and not simply memorize a series of steps. Additionally, knowing these concepts is absolutely essential for reading IP addresses and network traffic, troubleshooting and interpreting routes, the core operations of moving through the internet. You're also going to have a much better understanding of basic mathematics you've used your whole life, right? So, decimal maths and columns. The skills taught in this book are based on foundational concepts from binary mathematics, decimal equivalents, and statistical permutations. Here's a basic overview of this book, and we will move deeper into the contents as you progress through each chapter. Again, be sure to work with the practice problems as you progress through and check your work in the back. Actually write and solve them on a paper for stronger retention. Chapter 1 is all about networks and network addresses. Then in Chapter 2, I will go underneath the decimal numbers and examine binary. You will learn to convert back and forth between the number systems. Chapter 3 is all about the basics of subnetting derived from subnet masks. Chapter 4 moves to the next level, customizing the subnet mask according to your needs. This one progress to changing mask as you are subnetting. So I'm going to tell you right now, I love this book. Like, I mean, I am in love with this book. I think that books like, and I'm not just saying that because the guy I work with, the guy that wrote it, I couldn't care less, Um, I love books like this. I love books that will give you some kind of practical um, um, knowledge that you can, especially if you're in a field like cybersecurity, right? Um, and you are trying to grasp networking and subnetting, I think this book is perfect because it has practice tests, but it's not a textbook like a huge textbook where you're gonna get lost in the pages, because you can find huge books on IP networking, right, and subnetting, and you'll look through it and it's like reading a manual. You're like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I can already tell by the way this is writing. This is well written, and I can already tell that when I'm going through this, it's going to keep me interested, right? And it's just enough to keep me interested so far, even just the intro, and then it's gonna, I could do some practice stuff if I want, and you get a an actual practical, I would say a mind practical, right, understanding of IP addresses and subnet addresses, and how it works and why it works. He says he's gonna throw in some math, and he's gonna show you the binary and all this stuff. And he's right. It is complicated, but it's not that complicated if you look at it. If you look at it um, at its parts, right? And that's what he's talking about with the binary and the ones and zeros and hexadecimals and all that. Um, if you look at now, if you're not good with math, then hey, then maybe you don't need to, because you're probably not going to be an administrator where you're setting up networks and setting up subnets, right? But you at least know how, at least at the very least, need to understand what you're looking at, right? So let's get started. Okay, so chapter 1. So we're not going to go through all the chapters, but we're gonna because I'm gonna make this short, but we're gonna skim through them, okay? And I kind of want to talk more about this book and its uses, right? So if you're thinking about getting into cybersecurity, you definitely have to read this book, or a book like this, right? Some kind of book like this. But I would recommend this book, right? Obviously, um, when you get to your networking part, right? So when you're understanding networking, and you're like, okay, now I want to learn about networking. Maybe go get my Network Plus, or I just want to learn on my own about networking, right? If you're an autodidact, then and you want to just do it yourself, then a book like this is what you need to read, okay? Because this has got a mix of testing your knowledge with some practice tests, and I'm sure it gives you the answers, and you're learning, right, from somebody that's been teaching it for a while. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, or one of them. IP4 addresses in IP protocol suite, as we now use on the internet, were set up in 1981 by the Internet Engineering Task Force. So it's going to go into some history, right? Protocols like IP4 define a common way for separate computer systems to communicate, much like languages or writing allows for humans to communicate. The RFC came before we saw the widespread use and adoption of the internet growth. So now this is going into the history of the limitations of IP4, right? And if you guys don't know that, get this book, buy this book and read it. I'm sure he's going to go over it and why we're transitioning to IP6, right? And this goes over IP4 addressing. So IP4 addressings are 32-bit addresses. Okay, so now think about that. So if we have 32 bits that we're messing with in IP4, okay, and how many internet facing devices do we have in the world right now, right? So that's it. All those bits are just integers, zeros, or ones. We have to stack them to the left. If anything happens in the decimals you're familiar with, to make larger values. So written in binary, a full IP4 address would be this, or which in decimal is 192.168.01. Woo! You learn how to practice doing these. So I like this already. at the start of the book, he says he couldn't explain it to. Well, I mean, if you explain this to the non-IT or cyber or industry person, I guess they do. They could see it the way he's teaching it with it's just integers, zeros and ones, right? So that's a good way to teach that. Um, so he's going through IP4 and um, and everything about IP4 that pertains to it, right? So, and I'm just speed reading this real quick. Dresses class. So then he goes through the dresses class, right? And so my viewers are basic, intermediate, advanced people. Okay, if you're advanced, you already know about dress classes, and you could probably read this book and you'll understand everything he's talking about in it right away because you've gone over it and you've done it. Maybe you're a master of subnetting and IP addresses yourself and networking yourself, or just maybe he'll explain it clearly enough to where you go, ah. So, but if you're a beginner, this is the book for you. I would even say if you just know that about networking and you know about IP addresses and you want to know more, I'd say get this book, because this is basically when I started getting into networking, and I wanted to clarify, or actually I needed to put some material together to teach it. So I had an interview where I had to put a lot of material together to demonstrate that I could teach a networking class. It was networking 101, so it was entry level. But this is to college students, okay? And so I was able to, this is basically the stuff that I grabbed, but and I grabbed some kind of stuff, but I don't know how well detailed I had and all that to put, time to put it together, but it was basically, I went over IP4, I went over address classes and stuff like this too. So this book, you're gonna learn from an instructor's point of view, right? And here's your address classes, okay? And these are important because it allows you to see and to figure out what industry or what section of IP addresses you're looking at, right? So class 1 or of the different ranges of IP addresses. So I like this book already. So binary and decimal conversions. So this is where I say what separates the novice from the masters, right? If you can, and then, like, let's say you're a network administrator or you're setting up networks and subnets. I'm pretty sure you have to know how to do all this, and this is just decimals and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm not a network administrator, so I don't know, but I'm sure you need to have a lot of practice in this. And I used to I could spell out sentences in binary a long time ago, and I could still, all I would have to do is do a refresher. But here's like a little counting binary. Here's a little refresher. So, like, we all know the binary number, 0 equals 0, 1 equals 1. That's on and off, right? We know this, okay? But do you know that that's how computers talk with each other, is ones and zeros? And so, of course, if you're setting up a network or something like that, you're gonna understand binary, right? And you got 2 2s and so this is awesome. So this is going literally through and doing a refresher or a entry level to binary, how to read binary. That's really awesome. This is gold right here, okay? It doesn't look like it's too much and it doesn't look like it's too less. It's just enough to get you to understand, right? and then it's talking about the 255 and converting binary to decimal. It goes a little bit more, and this is stuff you could practice, right? So why are we converting binary to decimal? I mean, think about it, right? Just like I said, it's all ones and zeros, and yeah, this is awesome. I want to go through this book now and do a refresher. So when I've got so many topics that I'm going over. I'm teaching electrical engineering technology right now. And I am, so I'm going back to my electrical. If you've seen all my books on there, I had to buy a bunch of new electrical books and stuff. This is more second semester. So I'm teaching first semester electrical engineering technology. This binary right here, our students learn in second semester. So that's why I've always said that electrical engineering technicians that understand electricity and binary number ones and zeros and all that, they transition well into cybersecurity because of this, right? This just shows you proof, right? You're dealing with binary still when you're dealing with networks and computers. Because all a computer is ones and zeros. I mean, that's how it communicates through AND gates, OR gates, and all these chips and gates and stuff. And it's using Boolean logic and binary, and that's what he's talking about. So if I kind of lost you on that, right, and you didn't understand half that sentence I just said, it still doesn't matter, because you can go through a book like this and focus on what he's trying to teach you, right? Practice, and then he gives you practice sheets at the end. You'll be okay if you just focus on that you're trying to learn about networking and subnets, right? So now he's going into subnet masks, okay? So you know that IP4 addresses has 32 bits and is divided into a network and host portions. Originally, the class defines these octet boundaries according to the class, and don't get daunted on all this. This is not daunting. This is all just decimals. I mean, you learned that in elementary. You're just learning how to convert binary to decimal. Well, that's not that hard either. It doesn't take you. He goes through the lining of it, right? And he shows you, and that's not even that difficult. I could do a refresher, and I wasn't really good at math in high school. I wasn't really good at math in high school or anything, and but I could do it now because I've been doing it so long, and I picked up on binary conversions, right? Easily. Okay, and then so now he's going into subnets, and he's talking about subnets. Okay, practice default and prefix. So now you're practicing. Now what does this look like? They look like IP addresses, right? And so that's what they are. That's all they are. I like that. I like how he breaks that down. Boolean operators. He's talking about Boolean logic, and he's talking about what I just said. The three most common are AND, OR, and NOT. And this is what computers are made of. So in a nutshell, computers and basically anything on a computer, messing with the computer, internet, or whatever, it's using ones and zeros. Okay, Boolean logic is just I don't want to get into all that, but it was invented by Boolean, I guess, or whoever, and before computers was invented, but they used his logic for computers, so it's pretty cool. Now he's going into the IP addresses here and the subnetting, and how to set up subnets or whatever. And if you don't know what subnetting is, you can get this book and it'll go into it. I've got five more minutes, and I just want to go through the book and see what, because I haven't gone through the whole thing. But you see, we're already halfway through, and we're not even. It's not a huge book. It's perfect. Practice using block size. Okay, so now he's setting up his subnets. Okay, and he's going through more detail. So as you get through the book, you're going into more detail on setting up subnets and how they work, and so this would be great for entry level administration or hackers that are trying to understand. See this? So yeah, so these are just um, IP addresses and subnets, right? And so look, he's got to practice subnetting, practical applications, routing tables, and he's got some routing tables. So this is now you're getting into setting up your networking, your network, and being able to do some subnets and stuff like that. I think this is great. And he's got a conclusion. Okay, so at the end, what do you have here? Subnetting charts. Awesome. And to tell you the truth, this is what I use. I like to cheat. I can't remember how to do any of this stuff. I'm not a subnetting master. Okay. I can read networking. I can read a network. I can read IP addresses. I know what the classes mean, or different classes, different industries, because I've worked in the industry, and I've set up I've set up basic intranets, and so I can read this stuff. I know what I'm doing when I'm traversing networks, sub networks. But I use these cheat sheets. I use these charts. Excuse me. I use them to figure out my classes and all that, right? Because I don't have it memorized. I've had no need to before. So yeah, I think this is great. So I say, you're getting into networking, you got to pick this book up, or pick up a book like this that teaches it in this kind of structure, from start to finish. It even starts with history, and like all great books, you got to start with history, or all lectures, especially in lectures in cybersecurity. I found that, or IT, I found that you have to start with the history, right? If you're teaching math and I go in there, I'll throw in, maybe the person that invented it, but sometimes it's lost on in the context that we're doing it for, what we're using it for, right? But in cyber, I've noticed that I think you have to start with the history, or in IT, you have to start with the history of it. It allows you to understand why what you're learning is there already, as opposed to teaching something else like electrical or math. We know why it's there. It's there because we use it, right, or whatever, right? We know, somebody came, invented algebra, or somebody made it popular. This is ancient, right? And it's ancient knowledge, right? But IT and networking and cybersecurity is relatively new. Okay, it's only since the 1900s. So everything builds off of ancient knowledge, right? But what I'm saying is it's to understand the history, and I think you need to start with history when you're teaching networking, and because you're talking about IP4 addressing, you're talking about, and then people might go, but what about IP6? And you got to clarify, the difference, and why we want to transition, and so when you start with the history of that, then you understand that, okay, now why do we have IP addresses and stuff like that, right? Because in IP address ranges and stuff. So I think it's great. Here's the different ranges and classes, and then it goes in. So it starts from the start, literally the history, and then it goes into reading and converting binary into decimal, so you understand that ones and zeros or binary is part of IP addressing, right? Which you need to know. Shows you how to convert it, and then so literally just takes you through the basics and then explains it, I say, well, right? And I'm gonna go through this book, and because I need a refresher, okay, I need to go through this book. I need to do the practice questions and see if I can even, get through the book on my own, because it's been years since I've practiced my binary, right? I'm talking about 15 years. Um, so, second semester in the program I'm teaching now is when I learned how to convert binary uh, to decimals, right? And I bet you if I go through this book, I'll be caught up. Now, do I need that? Probably not. But it's like anything, if you're going to learn something, right? Let's say in cybersecurity or anything, you should learn on this. You should learn it on the scientific level. Okay. Now, what I say about that is, if you want to be a good hacker or you want to be a good pen tester or something like that, I would say, need to have scientific knowledge. you it's okay to understand the process and the practical implementations. God, I can't even say that word. Of something you're learning, but it's even better to learn it on the scientific level, like from the at the level to at the level of ones and zeros, literally, is what I'm trying to say, to understand what you're doing in your field, right? So you're this go like networking, subnet mask, and all that. This goes back to the basics of how it all starts, right? Of how it all started is the binary ones and zeros. And you have to understand that that's what computers are made of. It's just ons and off, on and off, on and off, and gates, or gates. I'll say it again. Put together, and then transistors, and then so you have to understand all that. I would say, if you're wanting to hack, or wanting to get really 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 good at hacking or pen testing. Now, do you got to be a master of it? No, but it wouldn't help to understand the scientific level of something, right? To say, hey, well, now I can put two and two together. I understand what I'm looking at, right? And it just helps you. It helps you be better at what you're doing, especially in hacking, right? So I don't know. I like this book. This is a pretty good little review. I don't want to make it too long, and I'm not going to go through it or make it a series, but I definitely am going to come back to this if I need to reference something. So this is another thing that I use books like this. So if I'm doing something else and I'm like, okay, I need to brush up on my Boolean logic, I'll come back here and I'll get this book, right? And I'll just go, okay, and I'll take a refresher and I'll go, okay, that's right. Oh, that's right. And that's all I need. I don't need to go open my big giant digital book that I read 400 years ago. I could just do a quick refresher on this book, right? And then hopefully I'll get caught up, and it's got practice sheets and everything in the back. All right, so that was HackTheFile, and I was just reviewing. Subnetting, Master Crafting IP Networks. I think this is a great book. Go pick it up, and it's only going to help you understand IP addresses and networking and subnetting. So just make you a better hacker practitioner, or pen tester, or whatever you want to do in cybersecurity. This is a fundamental knowledge that you must know. I don't think anybody that's getting into cybersecurity is going to skip over this kind of knowledge. Okay, you are definitely going to have to understand networks. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. There's no way around it. You're going to be taking a lot of networking classes, not just one, and you're going to be doing a lot of networking knowledge through your whole degree, or if you get in a degree, or your whole career. Okay, in cybersecurity, because that's basically where we do our business, is on the network, right? All right, this is Hack the File. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Have fun.